Welcome, everybody. This is Romulus, and I am with TJ, and this is the first edition of what will be a continuing venture to talk with you, traders around the world, and get right into the fact that trading is war. So, TJ, you've been doing this for a bit. Do you agree with that comment? Do you think this is a war?
Absolutely is. In fact, if you think about it, imagine yourself being that samurai and you're faced off against whoever it is on the other side of your trade. Now, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Every now and then there's going to be a push. You'll have a little truce, a little peace treaty for a little while until your next battle. But in the end, there's a zero-sum game, right? And so we decided, Romulus and I, that this was a super important topic to talk on, and that this one topic alone can help a lot of traders figure out how to be on the winning side of each battle that they are engaged in, which is each trade that they're in, right? Yeah. Trading is war.
Yeah. You treat it any differently. You treat it with the less amount of respect or without the full dedication of your abilities. And I just don't think you're going to get the results that you really deserve.
No, not at all. And even if you do, you might get lucky, but winning the battle does not assure you of winning the war. Because as traders, what happens? Well, we have to take another trade and another and another and another. That's the thing about trading. So when you think of trading as war, it makes you focus in on the most important things to actually win that war, because nobody wants to be a casualty on the battlefield. That's not a good place to be. That's not why we're trading. We're not trading to be casualties. We're trading to win this war.
I think one of the greatest analogies that you taught me over the last several months and, year plus is how you look at things from the perspective of the general, not the ground troop, not the foot soldier, and not the tree, but the forest.
Yeah. That's critical. I mean, that's the difference between succeeding and failing. And that's also why we've created our trade plan hacking framework and our CEO trader mastermind program. It's to help traders actually learn that they have to operate from above the forest and not down on the forest floor amongst the trees. The irony is that when you're on the forest floor amongst the trees, you typically don't even have any perception of the forest. So the simple way to look at it is think of each trade you take as a tree in your forest. And there's always going to be a random distribution of winners and losers. Like, you're going to lose some battles, but how do you actually win that war? Well, it's a very simple metaphor. If you could sacrifice 1/3 of the trees in your forest to grow your forest 2 or 3 times larger as a result, well, it's the forest is your account growing and growing and growing. And that's what it means to make money. That's what it means to win the war of trading.
And you got to be willing to sacrifice. So many people get emotional about stocks that they own. They get too wrapped up with their trades. They start to think, again, for the small stuff. And what if you were General Eisenhower and you were faced with the decision of putting 1 million people on a beach in France? I mean, you know what? Things are going to go wrong for some people, but you got to make these decisions if you want to win the war.
Yeah, exactly. You have to sacrifice some resources in order to win the war. And risk is a tool for us if we use it properly. Without risk, we can't make money. But it's a fine line, right? How do you know how much risk to endure per battle, per trade when you're trading? If you don't use risk correctly, it's going to wipe you out. You're going to lose the war.
Well, we call it, you and I call it, a trade plan, but in the analogy of the trading is war, it's a battle plan. That's how you know it's a risk.
Exactly. A trade plan is another way of saying battle plan. And some trade plans are better than others. Some trade plans are only as good as the person trading the plan. Trading doesn't happen by itself. And many traders think they have a trade plan, but then they find they have a hard time trading it. Like they can't follow it. So why? The beautiful thing is that those are real easy things to solve, but it starts with an honest assessment. It all begins with honesty. When you look at that person staring back at you in the mirror and you decide, okay, I'm not only going to talk the talk, but I'm going to walk the walk. Because a lot of people talk, but then when it comes to walking, they walk in a different direction. Sure. And it's not congruent to what they're actually saying, thinking, wanting. Like, you want this, but why aren't you walking in the direction of what you want? Why? That's what we have to solve. But there are ways to solve it. That's the good news.
Oh, speaking of the war, sometimes wars ebb and flow. Last week in the crypto space, Bitcoin being the chief leader out there, but there was a war going on, and this is the picture of it. This is that one with that FTX exchange in the Bahamas that everyone's been reading about. I mean, there was a casualty of war, 75% down in just one day. That's all. I mean, Troy, in your entire trading career, which is spanning almost 3 decades full, have you ever lost 75% in a single day on a trade?
No, I've never lost 75% of. I've lost 100% in a day. But those were in the early days, and that's, of course, when I realized maybe I need a trade plan. I've told that story often, actually, because I made a bunch of money in 3 weeks and then lost it all in one day. And ironically, it's with the same market I love to trade. It was with crude oil. But your point is well taken. And there are times in history when the dam breaks and all the water just flows downstream. And now there's nothing left in the reservoir. The water's gone. Right.
But your battle plan, your trade plan, you're thinking of this in terms of a war. You've got to have different defense mechanisms. You have to have different abilities to attack when the time is right. And you must have protection in place for these types of events. You must, or else you were going to lose that war on the big picture. You may make a good trade now and again, and like you said a minute ago, get lucky, but this is going to happen to you at some point.
Yeah,
you have those pieces in place.
That's true. And luck is a double-edged sword. So that's getting lucky too. It's just the wrong kind of luck. It's the bad luck. I mean, and luck is not a strategy. So your point is well taken. You should never put yourself in a situation where if something goes wrong, and something always does, then you lose everything. And you never want to be in that position. And there's something else you just said, and I've said this for years too. If it's possible that it can happen, then at some point it is going to happen. So the 100-year storm happens. And when the 100-year storm happens and you're living through it, now it's not the 100-year storm anymore. It's the storm right now that you're trying to survive. Now it's the right now storm. It's the storm now. So this could be a 100-year storm, metaphorically speaking. There's a possibility that it could happen, and sure enough, it happened. And that's just true. That's always true. There's always going to be a worst case scenario, and that worst case scenario is going to happen. You have to protect yourself.
You got to protect yourself. You got to have your plan. And, you go through some training, you start educating yourself, you pick up skills and experience over time. I mean, you and I got to where we are today, not by 20 plus years of luck. It was the education. It was dedication to the craft, the science, the art of trading, of investing. And then all that comes to place in a challenging environment, as we've seen so far in 2022. People are kind of waking up to the fact that this is not just an easy thing to do. If you don't come prepared, they're going to take your money away from you, and then you're going to be a casualty on the battlefield.
Right. And I think that the thing about it not being easy is that's a relative. It's a relative description, because it also doesn't have to be complicated. In other words, nothing is easy if you don't know it. Nothing is easy if you don't understand it. Nothing is easy if you haven't learned it, if you don't get repetition. Riding a bike, learning how to ride a bike when you've never ridden one before, that's not easy. You get
I like to think of it like it's simplicity versus complexity. The way it gets easier is to make it simple, keep it simple. That's how you can start to do that repetitive behavior and get consistent. I mean, how many times have we talked about being consistent? If you look at the ancient Romans, why were their legions so victorious and dominant for hundreds of years? They were consistent. They did the same thing all the time, and it kept working. It just kept working.
Exactly. They had a method. They had a trade plan that was superior, that gave them put the odds on their side. They lost some battles too. They lost some soldiers, obviously, but they always came out on top, and they were like the rulers of the world for how many centuries?
Right.
And it's a great metaphor, and it's a great lesson. If you have something that works, just repeat it. Just keep doing it. And so a good trade plan, that's really the answer. Anyone who's trying to find success in the markets and struggling to find consistent success, it's pretty easy to figure out why. There's only a handful of reasons, but it all boils down to not having a trade plan that you have proven to yourself and that you believe in and that you can execute. And then just doing it over and over again.
I mean, it sounds like, I mean, one of the reasons you and I are successful traders is we implement these things, we execute these things, we do treat it like a war. And one of the concepts that comes to my mind when we say that to people, trading is a war, treat it like that, is you marshal the resources that you have at your disposal, not just one thing or another, not just a computer, or not just reading one book, not just using one indicator. Get all your tools at your disposal. You won't win this war if you're not using everything that is available to you. And one of the things, I believe, Troy, you've got a webinar coming up real soon that's going to show some tools that can get people winning this war pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a free training coming up. You know, I do them all the time, but the next one is in a few days. I'll be doing another one after, but right now I'm focused on this one. And then we've got our trade plan hacking framework masterclass.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. That's coming up in a couple weeks. So the point that you just said, though, is learning how to like marshal your tools properly. It's also a source of confusion for people because people get caught up with too many tools, the analysis paralysis syndrome, not knowing what to lean on, what to focus on. Maybe too much information is not good. I mean, we know that's a fact. You end up with like a deer in the headlights. So it's important to know what to use, what not to use. If you think about it, riding a bike, you got two wheels. You don't have three, you don't have four. It's pretty simple. Once you're on the bike and you've learned how to ride it, there's nothing to do except just start riding, right? You don't have to think about swerving around the pothole. You just do it instinctively. I want all my members trading to be like that, like a reflex.
Right.
The confidence is in place. They believe in the outcome because they've done the preliminary pre-production work to prove it to themselves first. And then they've practiced it to get really good at it. I mean, that's really
you talk about the practice. Look, any general knows that you have to drill your soldiers so that they get that practice. So it becomes, as you mentioned, a reflex. It just becomes routine. That way, when they hear the whistle, when they see the flag, they know what to do. There's not a question. They know what to do. They take the next trade.
Yep. Yeah.
Next trade.
That's it.
You know,
and the trade will win and the trade will lose. And there's a random distribution of wins and losses because nothing's 100% guaranteed, but we have the odds on our side. And so then it's about smart money management so that you could withstand the losses when they come in and enjoy the winners, which also come in. The winners come pouring in. Usually after the losers weed out all the weak players, then the winners come in. And the losers are on the sidelines wishing they were in those trades winning, but they've already lost too much and can't continue trading either psychologically or because they don't have the capital anymore or whatever. So it's really important that when you think of trading and you create a trade plan, it's not just the setup. It's not just the indicators. It's how you marshal and manage your resources. And your number one resource is your capital for trading. So traders need to think about more what they can lose, not what they could win.
Well, I remember way back, I mean, one of the pioneers of all of this that we're talking about, a guy named 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗓 from 100 years ago.
Just mentioned him yesterday in a presentation.
He talked about that all the time is, don't lose any type of serious money. Don't lose. And you want to talk about war? Look, the guy there's a lot we can learn as traders from 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗓, both positive and negative. And he treated it like a war for some period, but he ended up with a bullet in his head because he lost focus and spun out of control and just didn't understand, I guess, in the end, how important it is to get it right. It was kind of unfortunate, but the war, in the end, the war got him because of just not doing the correct things here. And that's what we will help people understand. So we have a webinar coming up in a couple of days, another one a little bit after that. These are concepts that we're going to continue to talk about. Troy, before we kick it off here, any final parting shots for our budding samurais out there?
Well, I would just encourage everyone to really think about what those three little words mean, trading is war, and reflect upon it. And what could you do to become a better warrior? What is it that's preventing you from winning your war? And what do you need in order to get on the winning side? So that's what we're constantly teaching. That's what we're training on. It's a subject that no one talks about. We have the free Backpack Trader Lifestyle event coming up. I'll put a link in the notes, so anyone who wants to register, it's a free event. Give me an hour of your time. I'll move you closer to becoming a successful warrior in the war of trading.
God, it sounds awesome. It's so cool to see a guy dressed up like a samurai out there, knowing that eventually we can all become that winning samurai. All of us can become this. Every one of us.
Totally. It's a matter of will, and it's a matter of wanting it. Here's the thing. Trading is too damn important to get wrong because of what it can do for you, your family, your life. So let's get it right. That's the good news. We can get it right, and there's a way to do it. There's a step-by-step framework to follow.
Yeah. We can teach you how to win this war, and we will start that process here very soon. So, Troy, thank you so much for a quick discussion about the importance of trading, making sure that we pursue this and getting it right. Everybody out there, be careful. We look forward to seeing you very, very soon. And that is all for now. For Troy and myself, Romulus, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you in the next war.